The murder of a Russian activist has been linked to a website that offers prizes for attacks on gay people. Yelena Grigorieva appeared on a webpage that encourages people to hunt LGBTQ activists. She was stabbed to death in St. Petersburg Sunday night. A 40-year-old man has been arrested for the killing, according to Russian news outlets. Russia has faced international criticism for its repression of LGBTQ rights. Kamali Powell is the executive director of Rainbow Railroad, a Canadian charitable organization that helps lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people escape violence and persecution in their home countries. Thank you so much, Kamali, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So Yelena Grigorieva was listed on a website that actually promoted hunting down and attacking gay people. Can you tell us more about these kinds of sites?
Absolutely. So the important thing to understand about Russia is that since it passed in 2013 a gay propaganda ban, what it has essentially done is endorse state-sanctioned targeting of LGBT people. And so these websites are designed to essentially become platforms to which witch hunts can happen for activists and the human rights defenders who are creating safe spaces for the community, and resulting ultimately in horrific crimes like this.
Well, what other kinds of threats do LGBTQ people face in countries like Russia?
So when there are laws and policies that endorse or sanction the criminalization of LGBT people, what it does is a number of things. It creates an environment where stigma, it breathes around the community, where people can be targets of violence with impunity because the state is not going to defend the human rights of these citizens. And even for the people who are risking their lives to create safe spaces and to advocate for the human rights of these individuals, they end up becoming targets of violence themselves.
Well, Rainbow Railroad works to get people out of countries where LGBTQ people are persecuted. Is there anything that can be done for people still living in those places?
I think the first and foremost thing that needs to be done is to continue to push for the dissolution of these laws and policies. In Russia, particularly, it's that 2013 anti-propaganda law. In many other countries that put criminalization of same-sex intimacy, like sodomy laws, that's the first place to start. Where Rainbow Railroad fits in is that we realize that until that happens, for people facing imminent life and death situations, they need a lifeline. And so we exist to provide them a lifeline to find a safe place somewhere outside of that dangerous spot.
Well, you touched on it a moment ago, but how could speaking out against violence actually put people more at risk?
Unfortunately, once you put yourself out there as a human rights defender, you can become a target. And that we see that not just in Russia, but in many other countries. You know, there are 70 countries that criminalize same-sex intimacy, and the movement for human rights is dependent on these brave human rights defenders. And they do it with great risk to themselves. I am in awe of their bravery every day. But because of these websites, because of these platforms where hate is able to breed with impunity, they end up becoming targets. So we have to we need to condemn these sites. We need to find ways to continuously shut them down, ensure that these lives are not at risk.
And what do you think the legacy of Yelena Grigorieva will be?
You know, she was a fierce human rights defender. She knew that her work came with extreme risk, and she did it anyways. She's a hero. When we think about the advancement of LGBT rights internationally, we'll remember her name. We will remember someone that risked their lives and whose life was not in vain. Because of her, we are talking about what still needs to be done in Russia, and we need to rally together to ensure that Russia protects the human rights of LGBTI persons. And that includes continuously advocating for an investigation of the atrocities in Chechnya a couple of years ago.
All right, Kamali Powell. Kamali, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.